long as he left those faithful killer monks of his back at the monastery.
Oh, scimitar tongue, Gambit. You remain as always. We have much to discuss since our Gothic adventure amid the Alps. Come!
Gambit is back, and he is going to kill everyone he loves. That sentence should not be possible. Remy LeBeau, the man who once stood in the streets of New Orleans and declared that he was not a thief, not an assassin, that he was an X-Man and he was never coming back. He came back, wearing the scythe, carrying cards charged with decay instead of kinetic force, converting the people around him into Death's minions with tarot cards bearing the 13th major arcana. And somewhere inside that body, behind Apocalypse's total psychological occupation, Remy LeBeau is still in there. Rogue can feel it. That is the only reason she has not completely fallen apart. X-Men 97 Season 2, Episode 8 is titled The Dead Man's Hand. And once you understand every layer of meaning packed into that title, the episode lands differently than it did on first watch. The poker hand Wild Bill Hickok was holding when he was shot from behind in Deadwood in 1876. 2 aces, 2 eights, the hand that became legend because of how the man holding it died. Gambit's playing cards, his weapon, his identity, a proposal, Gambit asking for Rogue's hand, except the man asking is not fully Gambit anymore. Apocalypse's metaphorical hand of minions being gathered for the endgame, and Rogue's actual hand, the touch that was always impossible between them, finally possible because death has changed what Remy is. 5 meanings, 1 title. The writers of this show are not playing around. Let's go through everything, because this episode is layered in ways that require context to fully appreciate. The opening is built on a visual callback so specific that you almost miss it if you are not looking. As Rogue speaks, the campfire she and Ensavanor sap aside shifts and morphs into the fireplace on Genosha, the one where Gambit threw his playing cards into the flames. Specifically the Queen of Hearts, the card he always used to represent Rogue, the woman he loved, the person whose face he chose to watch burn in a fireplace because the grief was too large to carry in any other form. That the fire of that memory becomes the fire of Apocalypse's philosophy is the episode telling you exactly what the villain did. He took Gambit's love and turned it into the weapon. Not despite the love, because of it. Love is pain, Apocalypse told Rogue on Genosha. Those you care for will become your undoing. And then he proved it. He took the person Rogue loved most and made that person the instrument of her destruction. The pink dress in the dream sequence is the other detail that needs its full context. Rogue wore that dress in the 1992 original series pilot Night of the Sentinels. She wore it again in the X-Men 97 premiere at the dance club. And in that earlier moment, Gambit said that any worthwhile man would gladly suffer her hand in a dance. The contrast between that moment and this one, between a man offering his presence as a gift and a man who is now a weapon being aimed at everything she is the full emotional range of this episode compressed into a single recurring costume choice. The poker game at the mansion is where the episode lets itself breathe for a moment before it stops breathing entirely. The X-Men trying to clear their minds with a game of cards, a Gambit pastime in the most pointed possible way, with a strict no psionic powers rule that prevents Charles and Jean from reading the table. The poker chips on that table are an Easter egg that comic readers are going to pause for. Blue and yellow chips, the iconic 1991 Jim Lee designs from Uncanny X-Men. Red and blue, the 1994 Generation X uniforms. Black and yellow, simultaneously the 2001 Frank Quitely New X-Men, modern look, and Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's original 1963 designs. The entire visual history of the X-Men compressed into a pile of poker chips. Beast's story about Wild Bill Hickok carries one additional detail that historian Carl Brahan reportedly claimed but that accounts vary on, that Hickok's 5th card was the Queen of Hearts. Whether that is historically confirmed or apocryphal almost does not matter in this context. The show is using that uncertainty the same way it uses everything, to point at Rogue, to make the legend rhyme with the present moment, to remind you that the dead man's hand has always had a queen in it. X-Force arriving is where the warmth of the poker game ends. The jet comes in with psionic jammers, because Cable and Psylocke are operating around telepathic heavyweights and they know it. Beast triggers an EMP, and there is a small detail worth noting here about why that does not immediately drop the aircraft. Military-grade and advanced tech vehicles like the Blackbird, are specifically engineered with hardened redundant systems to withstand electromagnetic disruption. Pop culture gets this wrong constantly. The show is getting it right. The Cable reunion scene is the one that carries the most weight for the Summers family specifically. Scott and Jean seeing Cable as an adult, this towering soldier from a ruined future, for the first time since the sacrifice during the Asteroid M crisis. His coldness, his refusal to lead with vulnerability, his business-first manner, all of it makes complete sense once you understand the life that produced him. He is a man who was sent to the future as a child, raised in a war, separated from the parents he had just met, and has spent his existence fighting a battle that might not be winnable. His emotional walls are not a character flaw, they are functional scar tissue. Rogue confiding in Nightcrawler and bringing up her abusive father disowning her when her powers manifested is a direct callback to the 1993 episode A Rogue's Tale from the original series. The show trusts that its audience remembers. It is not explaining. It is simply honoring the history of this character by letting her carry it into a moment where she needs to explain why love feels like a trap to her, even as she is about to walk into the most dangerous version of love she has ever faced. Cerebra trekking Gambit to New Orleans on Halloween night is the episode's central pivot. The upgrade from Cerebro to Cerebra matters in the comics. Cerebra eventually becomes so advanced that her consciousness is transferred into a Sentinel body for field missions, which is a direction the show could theoretically take this technology in later seasons. The French Quarter on Halloween is the perfect cover. Costumes everywhere. Chaos, a city that celebrates the strange and the dangerous as performance. And inside the telepathic plane, Death ambushes Xavier before he can lock coordinates, flashing Apocalypse's image and driving Charles out. The location choice is confirmed not by any coordinates, but by what it means. Gambit stood in those streets and swore he was never coming back. His presence there now is the evidence Xavier needed that Remy is not in control. The Church of the X-Ternal is where the New Orleans underworld gets assembled. Bobby LeBeau, Gambit's older brother, voiced by AJ Locascio, who also voices Gambit himself, a production choice that adds an uncanny quality to every scene they share. Pierre, the veteran guild member, and Belladonna Boudreaux, Gambit's ex-fiancée, leader of the Guild of Assassins, voiced by Rachel Kimsey. The stained glass inside the church depicts Kandra the X-Ternal, with Latin words embedded in the design. Furus, thieves, Sicarius, assassins, the entire criminal architecture of New Orleans' hidden world encoded in church windows. The power evolution of Death's abilities is the detail that book readers have been waiting for since his resurrection was confirmed. Standard Gambit charges objects with biokinetic energy. Contact produces an explosive impact. Death charges objects with decay. Organic tissue rots on impact. When the tarot cards bearing the 13th major arcana land on the guild members, what converts them is not kinetic force, but something older and more fundamental. The House of M storyline in the comics established the specific alteration when Gambit was first transformed into the Horseman of Death, and the show is honoring that distinction precisely. The costume showcase during the church battle is the episode's single most visually spectacular sequence for anyone who has been reading X-Men comics across multiple decades. Wolverine in his 1980s John Byrne brown and yellow suit, Cyclops, Jean, and Beast in the early 2000s Frank Quitely new X-Men leather jackets, Storm in her 1975 Dave Cockrum black suit from Giant Size X-Men #1, the costume that defined her for a generation, Morph, and Forge in the 1960s classic blue and yellow training suits, the Jim Lee 90s interpretation of the originals. Every costume choice is a specific era of X-Men history made physical and deployed in the same space simultaneously. The show is doing for X-Men what the multiverse Spider-Man films did for Spider-Man, using the full depth of a decades-long mythology as visual language rather than just background noise. Morph transforming into Earthquake, a member of the Shi'ar Imperial Guard, first appearing in the Phoenix Saga arc from Season 3 of the original series, is a callback so specific it will land as a blink-and-miss moment for most viewers and as a genuine gift for the people who have been here since the beginning. Gambit's bow staff with the scythe blade attached is the visual embodiment of what he has become. His weapon, the thing most associated with his character and his skill and his identity, now bearing the shape of death itself. Cable's revelation about X-Force's true mission is the betrayal that reframes the entire episode's tension in retrospect. They were never there to save Gambit. They know Apocalypse's consciousness survives within him. They know what that means for the future. Their mission, the mission they hid from Sunspot and Jubilee, was always termination, not rescue. The utilitarian calculation that killing one person to prevent a cosmic catastrophic evil is acceptable. Cable has spent his life making exactly these calculations. It does not make him wrong about the math. It makes the math unbearable. Rogue going into Gambit's subconscious to break Apocalypse's hold is where the episode arrives at the thing it has been building toward since before this season started. Their connection is the weapon, not Rogue's physical power, not the X-Men's tactical coordination, not Cable's future knowledge. The fact that Nightcrawler described their bond as their souls touching with every gaze, that is the thing Apocalypse underestimated. He turned Gambit into death to prove that love destroys. He did not account for love being strong enough to reach into the thing he built and pull Remy back out. Apocalypse's essence is not gone. It is trapped in the back of Gambit's mind, contained but present, which means the triple threat of the finale is real and urgent. The X-Men need to extract Apocalypse's soul without killing Remy. Val Cooper is organizing X-Force and X-Factor as government instruments pointed at Xavier and X-Corp. And somewhere inside a hospital bed, with a heart monitor reading XM266, Remy LeBeau is recovering from the process of being wrestled back from death by the woman he loves. XM266, Uncanny X-Men number 266, published in August 1990. The first full appearance of Gambit in Marvel Comics. The show put his comic book debut on his hospital monitor. That is the level of love this production has for this character and for the people who have followed him for 35 years. The dead man's hand had a queen in it. She went into the dark to find him. She brought him back. And now the X-Men have to figure out what to do with the ancient evil sleeping in the mind of the man who survived. So here's what I need from you. Cable's position. Does the utilitarian logic hold, or is the show right that some things cannot be reduced to acceptable losses? And the suit showcase, was there a specific costume reveal that hit harder than you expected? Or is there one you are still waiting to see? Drop everything in the comments because the season finale is coming, and I want to be in this conversation with you before the last episode airs.